Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Eddy.
And I'm Tom Preece.
And we're so pleased to welcome you to another edition of
Anything But Politics.
where we talk pretty much about
Anything but politics.
And today we have a great guest. Really excited about him.
Yeah, this guest we have today really has done a lot of different things within the arts and with planning. But, we're here today with Representative David Preece, who's in his second term in the New Hampshire House. The first term he served on the municipal and county government, which you'll understand soon, really made a lot of sense. And this past term, he's been serving on the Finance Committee, specifically Division 3, which is Health and Human Services. But without further ado, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's a treat to be here and to talk with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's go to the beginning. Where are you from originally?
I'm from a small town in northern Utah called Pleasant View. And
sounds pleasant.
It's on the foothills of the Wasatch Mountains. And it was a small farming community, maybe 900 people, in total. Everybody was related to everybody except for our family. And both of my parents were professionals. My father was a public school teacher and my mother was a registered nurse. And so they both, worked full time, which was, not heard of in those days. But it was a beautiful life, beautiful life. You could just, get your horses on and ride them up to the foothills and have a great view of the whole Salt Lake and Ogden Valley. So, yeah, it was a beautiful time.
And do you have any siblings?
Yes, I'm the youngest of three.
Same.
Same, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I could see the similarities. I have a sister who was born in 1948. Beautiful, beautiful person. And then I have a brother who was born in 1949, who was born with developmental problems. He was a premature baby and had brain damage at birth. But he's amazing. He's amazing, and I consider him one of the greatest teachers I've ever had because he's kind of taught me empathy and loving everybody and finding joy. And so I'm really appreciative of having Dennis in my life.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Do they still live out in Utah?
They still live in Ogden, Utah. My brother's in a nursing assisted home, but my sister is still going strong and will be to the very end. So, and I have all my family living pretty much in the Salt Lake and Ogden. So
how does one go from this beautiful, picturesque area to then, it sounds like you've had a circuitous route, but winding up in New Hampshire? Would you mind just telling us a little bit about it?
Well, it's an interesting journey. My mother claims that at the very early age, I was always plotting to escape. I was always running off and hoping to go someplace else. And maybe there's some truth in it. I don't know. But after college, it was interesting. In college, I was a pre-med major. And I was doing that in order to please my family, which I would recommend nobody try to do that. You'll end up, very disappointed. So I realized in my junior year that I would not get accepted in medical school. So I opted to find something else that I could contribute in. And that was urban planning. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of secretly took more and more classes that would help me hopefully get into graduate school. And then I graduated and was accepted at Western Kentucky University into their graduate program. And I went there and did my degree and then came back to Utah as a good, son would do. And I had a couple of jobs, first at a regional planning commission, Wasatch Regional Planning Commission, and then at Park City, Utah, where I was the planning director.
Oh, wow.
And so that really gave me, this was in the late 70s when Park City kind of exploded with development.
All thanks to you and your planning.
Well, no, I just think that the timing was right and I was there. And, so I did the Deer Valley Master Plan.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So, and I remember going after evening to public hearings on various aspects of it. And the fact that it came out as well as it did is amazing. And I go back, occasionally to see Park City, and I see various elements of what I worked on in their master plans being implemented, which really gives me a lot of delight. But
It's a lot to be proud of.
it was, and I was very young. But there was a lot of development pressure, and so I decided to move on from Park City to Beloit, Wisconsin. And if you could ask me, where is Beloit, Wisconsin at? Back then, I wouldn't have a slightest idea where it was at.
I still don't.
No, I really. So it was all a big thing. I flew out there. They loved me. I loved them. And I saw a lot of opportunities for change and planning. So I took the job, and I was in Beloit for close to 5 years. And it was on the other spectrum of the development scale. All the jobs were leaving the Midwest and was going south because of unions and less regulations and whatever. And so I really had to come up with another strategy. So I went to the planning mode and did several planning for the downtowns and special neighborhoods, park planning and recreation, things that I could easily implement. And then I took it the next step and did kind of revisions to the zoning and subdivision and then plan unit developments. And while I was there, I pursued a doctor's degree in urban and regional planning at the same time at University of Wisconsin-Madison. Mm-hmm. And that was really crazy on my part. I can always remember the faculty saying, "Now, what do you want to do with your PhD?" And I said, I wanted to be the best planner. I mean, I wanted to actually do planning instead of just researching and teaching it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do it. And during the course taking and phase of that, it was really great learning about what other people did and then actually seeing it implemented with the practices that I was trying to instigate in Beloit. But I got to a point that I had to move on. I had an opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. to be a private consultant. And so I took that opportunity. And it was in the early 80s to 88. And I had a wonderful time there. But it was a time to go. And I had another opportunity to go to the city of New York, Manhattan, to be the deputy director for the Office of Environmental Coordination. Now, Ed Koch was the mayor then, and I thought I was just too old to be moving to New York City, to tell you the truth. I was in my late 30s at that time.
Oh, you're a baby.
I was a baby, but I was still too old to put up with all that. So, but I took the job, and within a year's time, the director resigned, and so I became the director of the office. And this particular office was in charge of all the environmental coordination, documentation. You had to get certified that all of your environmental impacts would be documented And if they're not mitigated, they had to be disclosed of not being implemented. So decision makers would know if they were approving them, are there any problems that will come back to haunt us? So I did that, and that was a fascinating job. And I had 30 people on my staff at the time. And one of the projects that I was kind of shepherding through the process was a little project called Trump City.
You said Trump City?
Trump City, yes. And he was just this kind of loudmouth developer that was always promoting himself. But he had purchased or got a lease on the west side rail yards to develop over them and develop the air rights, mind you. So, okay, so it was like building a platform over all of these rail yards and building on top. And one of the things that he was building was the world's tallest building. And it would cover Central Park completely in the daytime with shadow.
Oh, no.
That's how tall it was. So anyway, he was an interesting character to begin with. And he never paid his consultants or attorneys. So, you would write a 30-page comment letter on his reports and documents, and they would come back and nothing would be changed except for the footnotes on the bottom. The dates would be changed. And then he would come back and say, why aren't you certifying my programs? And we couldn't because the work wasn't done.
Yeah.
So anyway, from New York, I went to San Francisco, and I lived in San Francisco for 3 years, and then as a planning consultant. And I came to a point where I had to decide whether or not I wanted to just retire in San Francisco, which was just beautiful there. And I would have been very happy just having a glass of wine and watching the fog come in every night. And riding on the cable cars and having great Chinese. Or I could really do something that I was passionate about. Now, I'm always been passionate about urban planning, but there's been other sides of me that I've also been interested in. And one of them was the theater and writing plays. And I started writing back in 1980 when my father died. And a way of kind of dealing with the grief, I started to write about our relationship. And I became more and more kind of doing this on the side, on the weekends, at nights when I didn't have any evening meetings or, reports to do for school. But when I got to New York, I was actually taking classes, at Playwrights Horizons and at HB Studios. And I thought, well, maybe, do I go back to New York where I know how expensive it is to live and how difficult it is to find a job? Or do I go back to LA? And I said, let's go to LA. I'll learn how to write screenplays. I'll make $1 million. And, and then I can leave in a couple of years,
Sounds like a great idea.
I know.
Sounds like really good planning.
Yeah, really great planning. But it was very affordable at the time, and this was the early 90s. And so I went back there, and I had a terrific job as the environmental manager for the Southern California Association of Governments, which is the largest regional planning in the nation.
Wow.
And so it was a terrific job. And at night, I was taking classes at UCLA in screenwriting and kind of learning the trade, as they say. So again, at night, I would be writing screenplays like crazy and trying to get someone somewhere to read them, because without an agent or a manager, it's impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So I did that for 10 years. And then halfway through, I kind of thought that I would not, I mean, I really was having a difficult time getting anybody with any sort of credentials to even look at my stuff. And I went through 2 agents, and they were no help. So I went back to playwriting, and I came across this Equity Theater in Pasadena who was interested in having me adapt some of the classics as plays. And so I said, oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Sure.
And so I started to adapt these novels into plays. And I also wrote a couple of original ones, which they performed. And I got some recognition, and that was good. But at the 10th year, I woke up one morning and I said, you know, what am I doing in LA? You know, it's 10 years and the traffic is bad. And when you go to sleep at night, you see helicopters looking for escaped criminals or whatever, and celebratory gunshots, you know, and you're going, what am I doing here, you know?
Well, 10 years for you sounds like a long time to be anywhere.
It is. Well, it is. And so I got an opportunity to move back to New England. And it was like a godsend. It was a place where I could actually do planning again.
Yeah.
And when you say New England, what part are we talking? New Hampshire?
We're talking about New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah. I had another offer at the time in Burlington, Vermont, but I just love the aspects of New Hampshire because of the fact that they had no money. You had to really be creative to make it work. So I got a job as the executive director for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Okay.
And I was the director for till 2017. And that's how I end up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and in New England.
And so how long have you been in New Hampshire now?
For 21 years.
And you're stayed this long, right?
I have stayed this long.
30
yes.
years after he was supposed to retire.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I want to go back a little bit because, we talked a lot about your time as a planner and for the planning commissions, et cetera. And I want to know, what does that entail, right? What does it mean to say you're a planner? Does that mean you're saying that building goes there, that building goes there?
It doesn't.
Tell us a little bit about what goes into that.
The planning, no, it's hard to explain, but you have
I should know because I was on the planning board.
But you have no planner as a planner.
Yeah.
Power as a planner. What you can do is through your communications, through your relationships on the planning board and selectmen and town councils, by educating them as to what could happen there, to identify the pros and cons of the development. Okay. You enable them to make the best decision possible. And that's what I was doing.
So I
was giving them the tools, the information, saying, okay, so this is what this application will do, this development. But you've got to realize that it's going to cause some traffic, and they're going to be taking away these 2 acres of trees, which may be detrimental to the adjacent property owners. So you may be wanting to reconsider that.
So it sounds like you're an educator in so many ways.
Yes, you are an educator and a facilitator for change.
And as far as, creating these master plans, right, that you had mentioned
right.
in Deer Valley, so is that essentially identifying the potential for the area?
Right.
And providing that to the planning boards and,
right.
and town councilors?
Well, you can't. With the master plans, again, it's facilitating them to make the decisions themselves. In order for a master plan to be effective, successful, you've got to have buy-in from the town, the city, at the very beginning. It's got to be their plan. It's not just a consultant saying, here's your plan, goodbye, you owe me so much money. They've got to have buy-in or nothing's going to happen with it.
Yeah.
And that's what separates, a plan that is a cookie cutter plan and from one what the town owns and loves and wants to implement. And developers saying, we're going to do this and this and this and this and this. It all complies with the goals that you have set, that we have set as a community, what we envision our town to be.
Yeah. So I myself served on the planning board for a number of years in the town of Hooksett, and we relied very heavily on our planner to do a lot of the work. But I always thought that, and I don't know if my question is essentially going to be, is this unique to New Hampshire? But the buy-in from the community was always very strong. The plan comes in, is the plan complete? Sure, the plan's complete. Then you have a public hearing. And I was always amazed at how many people paid attention to the agenda and came in, community members saying, well, you're going to put this, sports bubble up. Well, that's going to impact my view. That's going to impact my travel.
Right.
And so New Hampshire, we're all very close-knit, right? Everybody knows what's going on. So is that community involvement unique to New Hampshire?
No, it's not unique at all.
Okay.
But the fact that New Hampshire is such a small community, and the fact that everybody becomes involved, it's everybody's development and everybody's concern.
Yeah.
It would make New Hampshire
And like you
special.
said, everyone has buy-in, right?
Right.
So then when you see the project come to fruition, everybody feels comfortable with what the ultimate outcome is.
Right.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. If the developer listens, to the advice from the planners, saying, I would do this and this if this is going to be a problem. Now, you can choose to go ahead with what you planned, but you're going to be coming with some resistance to your plans and your developments. But if you did this and this, you may be able to address their concerns and move on and get your plan adopted. Now, if I was the developer, this is what I would do. And if the developer is smart enough, they would do that.
Yeah.
They would take that advice at the very beginning, work with their architects and their landscapers, and make those changes.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting them.
How often are they smart enough?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think it depends upon, again, the relationship that is formed between the planner and the developer and the public.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you go into a conference room and you're arrogant and you're, I don't want to use any profanity, but if
you feel like it,
yeah. But if you're a dick and you're just like, oh no, and put on airs, that's not going to solve anything.
Right.
That's not going to solve anything.
And even,
there's ways to doing it.
And I think that transcends almost any situation anyway,
It is,
right?
It is. But some planners think, well, because I'm planners and I have this position, I can just say or do anything. And no, that's not the case. That's not the case.
But one thing I do want to bring up, and then we can move on to screenwriting, is people often think that developers have this, they're the god, right? Whatever they say goes. And they forget how much power lies in the community and in the towns. And to illustrate that, I would point to our neighbor, Maine, right? And I just read an article about this earlier this week about in Freeport, Maine, there is a McDonald's in an old colonial house.
Yes.
And it's So when you think about McDonald's, they didn't just throw up the arches, but the town had said, if you want to build something here, it's got to remain with the character of the town.
Right.
And so it's the only McDonald's in like a colonial home in
right,
Freeport, Maine.
right.
Which I think is,
But
That is
again,
cool.
that's the power of the community.
The communities in New Hampshire has that power to do that themselves here.
Yeah.
They don't have to allow Dunkin' Donuts to come in and put up their signature gaudy-looking buildings up everywhere. They can make them compatible to their community. It takes a little effort and buy-in, but it can happen, and it pays off.
Yeah.
It pays off.
That's great. So let's move on to, you know,
Okay.
obviously you had a lot of creativity, right? You know,
Right.
And that was kind of a hallmark to what you did as a planner and creating these master plans, but it really transcended into your work with screenwriting. And so you've written how many plays?
Oh, God, I don't know the number.
That many?
Yeah,
Wow.
that many, yeah.
And plays that were performed?
I've had like 7 produced, performed, 6 printed up
Wow.
with royalty companies. And I have another 5 or 6 kind of at a stage where I'm looking for a theater company to work with me and coming up with the next step. I've done the readings. I've gone as far as I can go. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that will dwell on a script and go back and fuss with it for years and years. I get it to a stage and I kind of put it aside and go on to another project.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at with my playwriting.
That's a lot of fun, though, right?
It is a
has
lot
to
of
be
fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm in that process now with a new play, and I've been sitting on it now for about, I would say 5 years. You know, it's like the gestation period. You have an idea, it's in your mind, and you're just trying to get it,
Figured out?
figured out, the characters to speak to you in their own voices. You've got to hear the voices.
Yeah.
And how does it, and I'm curious about the creative process, and I wonder sometimes as someone who produces videos, but sometimes I have to put things away for a while.
Yes.
And then pick it back up because I can look at it with a fresh pair of eyes.
Yes,
And
that's
see,
always highly,
which might be part of the creative process. But when do you get to the point when the voices start to come alive for you?
They could come alive in the very beginning, or they could take as long as they want to come alive. I mean, they're all very independent.
Yeah.
So, but I got to hear the voices. I got to hear the voices in my head. And one of the things that I would love to do was when I had cartridges in my knees, I would get up in the morning and go run for 5 miles.
Oh, good for you.
And it was like very early in the morning, and I could hear those voices. And I know that sounds kind of wacky, but
Actually, not at all.
no, but I could hear those voices.
I hear a lot of voices.
I hear voices. I know.
Those are different voices.
I know. I
Don't
know.
listen to those.
So yeah. So that was a great time to kind of cement that. But so that's usually, my playwriting experience.
Now you also have books. So
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Higgins.
Yes. I adopted, I should say my partner and I adopted a rescue Scottie in 2014. We had a Scottie already. She was getting up there. I think she was like 13 at the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I got word that there was a male Scottie in Hillsborough that went through 2 homes and had bit somebody in their yard who wasn't supposed to be in their yard, but trying to protect, the home,
He's doing his job.
doing his
not
job.
his fault.
But the police came and said, you've got to do something with it or we're going to put the dog to sleep. So I said, we'll take the dog. We'll take the dog.
Yeah.
And he came with the name of Higgins, so we gave him Mr. Higgins.
Yeah.
And so when I moved on to the third chapter of my life, and that was 2017, I decided to write a series of children's picture books about Mr. Higgins. And so a publisher from London has picked it up and has published 3 so far. And the 4th one will be out this fall, hopefully.
Oh, wonderful.
And we're getting lots of good responses. I'm getting emails from children reading the book sent to me.
That's awesome.
And I think what really makes it a rewarding experience is when I'm out working in the yard or walking the dog, a stranger will come up to me, a woman, a middle-aged woman with her children, and say, "Are you David Preece? Or did you write Mr. Higgins, A Home for Mr. Higgins, or Mr. Higgins Takes a Stand?" I said, "Yes, that's me."
Yeah.
And she just goes on, and the kids wanted to see if Mr. Higgins is still around, and I have to tell them that Mr. Higgins has left us and is no longer here. But
in the physical world, but he's
still with
here
us
in perpetuity.
Yes, exactly. So that's been a really rewarding experience.
I bet. That's magical.
It is. And it's international, and I'm getting some really great responses. And I'm losing my voice, so.
No, but that's fantastic. And I remember now Barbara Bush they had
Yes.
pups, and she
Yes.
used to write children's books, right?
She did. Yes,
Yeah.
about her dog. Yeah.
Was that your inspiration, or did it?
No.
What made you decide? Let's write a book.
Let's write a book. I think 2 things. My deputy director, Sylvia Van Alek, was venturing in children's picture books. And also my niece in Colorado, Kari, was also writing children's picture books. And I thought,
If you can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. And I said, what is there? But there really is a science to it. There's a word limit, how many words can be used in the book. And there's certain words that you've got to weave into the book because you want the children to have larger vocabularies.
Oh, yeah.
So I weave those words in. And they've got to have like a 3-act structure, and there's got to be a moral to the story. Mm-hmm. And so it's a kind of a challenge to kind of do all of that and come up with a good story. But I have a lot of good stories because Mr. Higgins was with us for over 10 years, so lots of stories.
So there's more Mr. Higgins books to come?
Oh, yes. There's about, I would say, 6 or 7 more books that have been written and are just waiting to be published. So,
And when you say picture books, is there an illustrator?
The publisher provides the illustrator.
Okay.
And so I have to work with their production editor, and then he works with the illustrator as the go-between. And that's one of my biggest complaints about the publishing company is you can't talk to the illustrator directly. You've got to work within their system. And so it's constantly back and forth. But, eventually they'll come up with a product that we both can sign off on.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So then, children's books, plays, planning, a little bit. You wrote a movie, you directed a movie?
I did. The last 2 years, in 2 or 3 years, I think it was in the year 2000, I got a diagnosis that I had leukemia.
Oh, wow.
And so it really took me by surprise. And they said, well, you have 7 years to live. So I went through the chemo. And after I survived the chemo, I decided, Well, let me write a short film, direct it, produce it, and see if I can get some more attention on my screenplays. So that's what I did. And I wrote a lovely screenplay, and I found a terrific cinematographer who was just a godsend, a sound editor, an editor. We didn't have to pay the actors, which was great. I only had like 4 actors anyway. And we kind of did it guerrilla style shooting in LA.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you know about LA, it's like you need a permit to walk out on the street at night. It's crazy. So we were doing all this shooting and filming in parks and on highways and roads and neighborhoods without the necessary permits. And we could have been busted. We could have been closed down.
Is there a statute of limitations? Or are they going to listen to this and come?
Well, I hope not. I hope not. But
Because we're big in LA.
maybe an ICE agent will come and arrest me or something like that. I don't know. But we got this film made, and we started to market it to film festivals, and we were able to show it at over 30 film festivals.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And a German film distributor came. We signed this international contract, and he was supposed to distribute it. Of course, he did nothing with it. He owned the rights, He did nothing with it.
So he owns the rights. So can we see it?
Oh, of course. I still have a copy of it. And you can see it. I own the film. So, I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of how it turned out.
Yeah.
Given all the obstacles that we had doing it live without a studio. But it was a great experience. Great experience.
I mean, what a fascinating story. And could you just take me through the plot of it a little bit? So what's the storyline?
Well, it's about these 3 men who are brought together. They know each other from another person who were central in each one of their lives. Mm-hmm. And it's called Eddie's Boys. No, I'm sorry. That was the pilot that I wrote because of the short. The short film was called Lunch with Eddie. And it's about one of them who planned a picnic to kind of celebrate Eddie's life, because Eddie is no longer, died of AIDS. And so he planned a picnic. And while he was going to this favorite spot of Eddie's, he meets up with these 2 other people who know each other. And so he brings them back. And all of their anger and jealousies surface within, believe it or not, 12 minutes. And
the whole movie's 12 minutes?
Yeah, it's a short film.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's a short film.
I'm thinking, well, today films are like 4 hours. So
well,
I'm thinking
I know,
like short's
but
like an hour.
It's a short film, so you have limits. I think you can go up to half an hour.
Okay.
But back in those days, if you wanted to have it shown, they always suggested 12 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
we do a short film. Isn't there a short film festival in New Hampshire?
There is.
Right? Is it here in Concord?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard about it. There's some guys I know who go to it every
But
year.
it's a great experience, because if you've never gone to a shooting and you're paying the cinematographer, you're paying the sound editor, you're paying for film and equipment, you're up to about $20,000.
Yeah.
And you're praying for a good day. You're praying for a good day.
Yeah.
And the day that we was doing the shooting, we were going to have this long shot through this living room to the kitchen, and all the light would be coming in the window, morning light. Guess what?
Rained?
It was like fog. It was like this coastal fog in the morning. And I thought, oh, how can this happen to me? But fortunately for me, it burned off. And it was the same way on the second day, foggy in the morning, very hot and bright in the afternoon. So we were fine. We were able to use it.
That's great.
But you're just like, so, I was bearing the cost. I didn't have any financiers, my credit cards,
Yeah.
which I'm still paying off. But it was worth it. It was worth the experience.
Yeah.
Because you had like 20, 30 people who you were responsible for.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just say, oh, we can't film today. No, we're not going to film at all. No.
Yeah.
You had to do it. You had to do it.
And you're not a stranger to film either, right?
No, I'm not. No.
Tell us a little bit about maybe your touch with fame.
My almost touch with fame, right? Yeah. Well, I was also doing I am still doing professional modeling on the side, and I'm with the New England modeling agency, modeling group, I think they call themselves. And I've done a couple of national commercials, which is fun.
Which ones can you
Yeah,
tell us?
anything
Well, there was an insurance company in Maine where they played the commercial for years. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's the largest insurance company in Maine, and they were just wonderful to work with. But I had a trophy wife, and I had a golden lab, and I had a lovely family that came to visit me where I cooked this wonderful gourmet.
Like Pleasantville all over again.
Yeah, it was on the lake, on the lake, and they would show this commercial, for 4 or 5 years, and people would call and see me on the street or the grocery store. Strangers would come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw you," And there was one shot which I thought was very, very, very funny, where I was supposed to be canoeing my 2 grandkids in this canoe across this lake, but in the lake there was like $40,000 of film equipment.
Oh, wow.
That was being shot of me doing this.
Oh.
And then, are you ready for this? The 2 children could not swim.
Oh, no.
And so they were not wearing life preservers. The boat was very unbalanced.
Ooh.
And
Jeez.
here I am, and I'm not a champion
This must have
canoe.
been for the insurance company as well, right?
Yeah.
Kind of ironic,
And
right?
I'm not a
Risks.
champion. I didn't go to boys camp. They didn't have such things in Utah. We worked, we worked in the orchards and fields. But so I was canoeing these kids and trying to look like I'm having fun. And this look of terror in my face as I'm canoeing across this lake. So that was one of them. So
That's quite the story.
that is quite a story. And then my other, so I did another one, but it was for a senior retirement community. But the other one was for a movie that I was cast to be the dead image of Kyle.
Oh, was it?
McEachran?
Well,
Something like that.
yeah, whatever.
Twin Peak guy.
Twin Peak, Blue Velvet, Kyle MacLachlan.
Oh, okay.
And John Hamm was producing it and starring in it. So my last shot was being shot in a small boat.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, yes. And falling to the ground. And that was the end of the film.
Wow.
Well, you got to close it out.
I got to close it out, right. It was the last shot of the movie. They had this big celebration, And I'll never forget just lying in there, not because you can't move. You're dead, you know. So
Yeah.
you can't breathe. You're dead. And
Yeah.
so I'm laying in here, and it's very uncomfortable and whatever. And then they said, finally, cut. And I thought, oh, thank God. And I looked up, and there was John Hamm, and he must be like 7 foot tall. And so nice, and he come and grabbed me up. Are you okay? You did a great shot, you know, whatever.
Oh, that's great.
So that was my fame in the motion pictures. So
That's fantastic. Well, I have to say, I mean, just the number of things you've done over the years and gone into. I mean, creativity has been a constant theme.
it has been.
Throughout
You know,
everything you've
arts,
Yeah.
and you know, I want to leave a legacy, I guess.
Yeah, well,
and
I
that
mean-
was the name of the game. You know.
Yeah, and then now you're in the legislature.
Yes, I am.
And that's your latest chapter. What is
Yes,
it like? What are we up
yes.
to? Like 14 now? Or
Yeah.
Chapters.
Well, you can call it maybe the fourth chapter, I guess.
Yeah.
And the reason I got into the legislature was I saw a need.
Yeah.
And I said, if you need me. And so then I came up with all these reasons why I shouldn't run for office. I came up with a list of 10 or 12 reasons why. And I was talking with a good friend of mine who said, well, David, it's not about you. It's about the people who you're representing. And I always remember that. It's not about me. It's not about my ego or my agenda. It's about the people, my neighbors, my friends who live in District 17 in Manchester.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good reminder of what's important. And you know, I show up, I speak out when it's time for me to speak out. And I vote, and I make sure I vote.
It's a good guiding principle, though. It's
It
not about
is.
you. It's about your constituents.
It is. And it's often forgotten because you get some of this legislation that it's only benefiting the people who are sponsoring it. And, you know, that's not the way you should do it,
Yeah.
you know?
So is there a fifth act coming up?
No, I don't know. I'm just kind of gliding through Act 3 and 4, or chapters 3 and 4 in my life.
So no big new film projects or some other creative endeavor?
No, but I'm trying to, you know, as I mentioned, I'm trying to get a new play off the ground, and I would love to, you know, before I went into decided to run for office, I was commissioned to write a screenplay, which was based on the real life of a man in North Carolina. And, you know, he gave me his book, and I thought, well, how am I going to adapt this into a screenplay? Because there were all those segments of short stories about growing up in a rural Appalachian, very impoverished, from 1949 to 1990 in that area. But mostly in the early 1950s.
Okay.
So, and they were very, very impoverished, and his mother was making moonshine and, you know, having all these lovers. So I said, okay, I'll write it. This is my fee. And so I wrote the screenplay. And it was a great experience. It was, again, a great experience. And what made it really rewarding for me was to be able to give a call to the actual person and said, okay, I'm at this point. I need to ask you, would this happen to you? And he said, yes, it did happen. So I would write that into the screenplay.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of the screenplay. So again, that's one of the screenplays that I'm still marketing off. And another one was called More Than a Friend, and that was optioned last year by a film company in LA.
Oh, wow.
So I'm excited about that.
So you still might get that Oscar.
I might, but I'm not counting on it, you know.
Don't forget your friends back here on
I
anything
will.
but politics. Yeah.
I won't. I'll bring you along. How's that?
That
sounds
sounds
great.
fair.
Good.
Well, Representative, thank you so much for sharing your many stories with us. I mean, what a fascinating life.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's been great talking with you and reliving memories and stories. It's been a terrific hour.
Yeah, no, it's really been great, and I appreciate everything you bring to the legislature. I mean, from your time as a planner and your creativity, and most importantly, your guiding principle that it's not about you, it's about the constituents.
Yeah, exactly. And if we had more people in the State House that did that, I think we would have a better House of Representatives.
And your enthusiasm, obviously, for people and for life. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
What a treat. Well, again, thank you to Representative Preece. We really appreciate your time. And thank you for listening to another episode of
Anything but politics.
And we hope to see you soon.